Data visuals are everywhere. But let's be honest, many of them miss the mark. You've likely encountered charts overloaded with colors, confusing layouts, or cluttered details that make it nearly impossible to grasp the intended message. The problem isn't a lack of tools. After all, anyone can create a graph with software like Excel. The real issue lies in how we approach the task. Few of us are taught to combine numbers with narrative, to transform raw data into clear, impactful stories. Before you even start creating charts or visuals, success in data storytelling depends on something far more fundamental: understanding the context. Here's a common mistake: sharing a comprehensive dataset with your audience when all they need is a clear takeaway. It's tempting to present everything, but this overload can lead to confusion rather than insight. Instead, focus on the essential pieces of information your audience needs. This is where understanding the who, what, and how comes into play. First, define who your audience is. Avoid vague categories like stakeholders or general public. Targeting too broad a group often results in diluted communication. Instead, narrow your focus to those directly impacted or those who need to act on your data. Consider their existing knowledge, potential biases, and their perception of you as the presenter. Next, clarify what you want your audience to do or understand. Is it to approve funding, adopt a strategy, or simply grasp a trend? Take a confident stance in recommending specific actions, even if it feels outside your comfort zone. A clear directive encourages your audience to engage with the material rather than passively observe. Finally, determine how you'll communicate. Whether it's a live presentation or a detailed report, adapt your content accordingly. Live presentations allow for direct interaction and flexibility, while written documents should anticipate and answer potential questions, given their lack of real-time engagement. As you structure your message, try boiling it down into a 3-minute story, a concise explanation of the issue, data, and recommended action. Or distill it further into a big idea, a single sentence encapsulating your unique perspective and what's at stake. For example, a 3-minute story could describe how a pilot summer program improved students' perceptions of science, supported by survey data showing a 70% increase in positive attitudes, while a big idea might recommend continuing the program based on these results. Planning your communication using tools like storyboarding can also help you organize your thoughts and ensure your message flows logically. By starting with the context, you'll guarantee your visuals aren't just clear, but impactful, guiding your audience toward understanding and action. In the end, thoughtful preparation transforms data into a compelling story that resonates. Picking the right visual is essential if you want to effectively communicate your data's message. But first off, ask yourself if a visual is even necessary. If, for example, you have just 1 or 2 numbers to share, why use a graph at all? Instead, a simple, bold statement like 20% of children had stay-at-home moms in 2012, compared to 41% in 1970, can have a far greater impact. Visuals are powerful, but their effectiveness depends on selecting the one best suited to your data and message. Start by understanding the differences between tables and graphs. Tables engage the verbal system, requiring viewers to read and compare values. This makes them ideal for presenting detailed information to a mixed audience. However, they rarely work well in live presentations, where attention is better directed through summarized visuals. To make tables easier to read, minimize heavy borders and shading so the data takes center stage. Graphs, on the other hand, engage the visual system, which processes information faster. Use them to highlight trends or relationships at a glance. For continuous data, line graphs are the go-to option, with variations like slope graphs offering clarity when comparing 2 time points. For categorical data, bar charts, vertical or horizontal, are highly versatile. Remember to always start bar charts at a zero baseline to avoid misleading your audience. Pie charts and donut charts rely on comparing angles or arc lengths, making them hard to interpret accurately, so skipping them is your best bet. Similarly, steer clear of 3D visuals unless you're plotting actual three-dimensional data, as they often distort perceptions. When deciding on a visual, prioritize clarity. Test your graph by sharing it with a colleague and noting their interpretation. Use their feedback to refine your design and ensure your audience focuses on the right takeaways. Ultimately, the best visual isn't about aesthetics, but functionality. Whether it's a simple table, a bold text statement, or a detailed graph, choose the format that most clearly communicates your message and meets your audience's needs. You want to take your data from abstract to actionable, and a thoughtful visual selection will do just that. Ever seen a chart overloaded with grid lines, excessive labels, and colorful but irrelevant decorations? Instead of guiding the viewer to a clear takeaway, visuals like this create confusion and mental fatigue. This happens because every element in a visual demands mental effort from your audience. The more unnecessary elements you include, the harder it becomes for viewers to process the information you're presenting. Clutter, those extra lines, borders, markers, or redundant text, can make your message feel convoluted and overwhelming. Just think of a sales trend chart. What should be simple to understand becomes frustrating to decipher if it's crowded with bright colors, heavy grid lines, or a legend where direct labels would suffice. Cognitive load is the mental energy required to process information. While some level of effort is necessary to understand data, too much can lead to frustration and disengagement. Clutter plays a big role here, as it makes visuals appear more complicated than they need to be. By removing unnecessary elements, you can minimize this mental strain and allow your audience to focus on the insights that matter. Simplifying visuals often starts with understanding how people naturally perceive information. For instance, our brains tend to group related items based on their spacing, color, or connections. This means you can use proximity, similar formatting, or subtle shading to guide your audience's eyes toward what's important without adding extra distractions. Alignment also plays a big role. Poorly aligned elements create a sense of disorder, while consistent alignment and spacing provide a clean, professional look that feels effortless to navigate. White space is another overlooked tool. It's not wasted space, it's breathing room for your content. By allowing your visuals to pause, you help your audience focus on the key message. Contrast is equally important. Highlighting critical elements through a distinct color or size makes them stand out, directing your audience's attention where it's needed most. When you declutter your visuals, you transform them from overwhelming to inviting. By directly labeling data, removing redundant elements, and focusing on simplicity, you make it easier for your audience to engage with your message. But removing clutter is just the first step. The elements you choose to keep need to then actively guide your audience's attention and emphasize your key points. In the next section, you'll learn how to strategically leverage various tools to ensure the visuals you retain serve a clear and purposeful role. Your viewers don't have unlimited cognitive resources, so your design choices should make absorbing information as effortless as possible. Visual cues have the power to precisely direct people's attention, often before they consciously realize it. For example, consider how much faster you can count a specific number in a grid when it's highlighted in bold red compared to when it's left unmarked. This instant recognition is made possible by pre-attentive attributes, design elements that your brain processes almost automatically, like size, color, and layout. Pre-attentive attributes can serve two main purposes: drawing immediate attention to key elements and creating a visual hierarchy that guides the audience through your information. Used effectively, these tools can help lead your audience's focus exactly where you want it to go. Size is the first powerful cue. Larger elements naturally command attention and signal importance. But creating a balance here is key. If all elements are large, none stand out. Then there's color, which is most effective when used intentionally and sparingly. A single bold color, like red, can highlight the most important information, while less critical elements are muted in neutral tones, like gray. Be mindful of your audience and avoid using red and green together to accommodate colorblind viewers. Similarly, a strategic layout ensures that critical information appears where the eye naturally starts, usually at the top left corner. Placing the most important data here saves your audience from unnecessary effort and makes your message more accessible. To create visually engaging data stories, always test your work. Step back and assess it yourself, or ask someone else to review your design and observe where their eyes go first. Do they land on your key messages? If not, refine your use of cues. How you use size, color, and layout can make all the difference, not just in terms of clarity, but in how quickly your audience comprehends your message. By guiding your viewers' focus, you can essentially shape the way your data story comes to life. In 1933, Harry Beck reshaped how people navigate London by rethinking the underground map, prioritizing clarity and ease of use over geographic precision. His design remains iconic because it focuses on what users need most: straightforward, functional visuals. The same principle applies to data visualization. Good design makes complex information accessible and engaging for any audience. Affordances, a concept borrowed from design, are about making the purpose of an object self-evident. In the realm of data visualization, this means designing elements that help the audience seamlessly interpret and engage with the information you're presenting. For example, just as a handle signals pulling or a button suggests pressing, your visualizations should use intuitive clues, like a clearly highlighted trend line or well-placed labels, to communicate their purpose. When affordances are thoughtfully incorporated, your design becomes almost invisible, allowing the data's message to shine without your audience consciously analyzing how to understand it. Equally important is accessibility. Overly intricate visuals alienate audiences, so simplicity should always be a guiding principle. Choose legible fonts and clear, concise language. Titles for axes, graphs, and sections are non-negotiable. They orient viewers instantly. Annotations can add clarity, helping viewers grasp key takeaways without guesswork. Think of text as a bridge between data and understanding, not just a supplemental feature. Next, aesthetics amplify effectiveness. Research shows that well-designed visuals are perceived as easier to understand, even when the content isn't simplified. Use a clean alignment, balanced spacing, and intentional color choices to foster a sense of order and professionalism. Avoid cluttered visuals, like rainbow palettes, that can overwhelm and distract. You want to draw your audience in and keep their attention. Finally, gaining buy-in for new design approaches can be challenging, but worthwhile. Explain the advantages of your approach and provide side-by-side comparisons to demonstrate improvements. Collaborating with influential stakeholders early can also build support and smooth transitions. By implementing these principles, you can create visuals that are both powerful and approachable. Ultimately, thoughtful design is about respecting your audience's time and helping them connect with your message in meaningful ways. When people hear the story of Little Red Riding Hood, most can recall its twists and turns years later. Why? It's not the facts about the character or events alone, it's the narrative structure that embeds the story in our memory. This concept applies to communicating with data too. Presenting numbers and charts alone won't engage your audience. Instead, crafting a clear story with a beginning, middle, and end ensures your message resonates, is remembered, and inspires action. Humans are natural storytellers, and this skill has been central to how we communicate ideas for centuries. Borrowing from Aristotle's three-act structure, setup, conflict, and resolution, gives us a framework for creating compelling narratives. Begin by setting the stage and introducing the problem or imbalance your audience cares about. Develop the middle by exploring the stakes, providing relevant data, and proposing actionable solutions. Conclude with a resolution that includes a clear call to action. The magic of storytelling comes from connecting ideas with emotion to make them stick. Unlike dry bullet points, a well-crafted story will capture your audience's attention and motivate action. To achieve this, integrate conflict and tension into your narrative. For example, highlight what could go wrong if no action is taken, or demonstrate the challenges your audience faces and how your solution addresses them. Repetition also strengthens your message. Use the bing, bang, bongo strategy here, an approach often taught in writing to structure essays. First, outline what you'll discuss, then provide the details, and finally, summarize the key points. This clear, repetitive structure reinforces your message and makes it easier for your audience to retain the information. To maximize clarity, use tactics like horizontal and vertical logic. Titles across slides or sections should form a cohesive story, while each individual slide or segment should reinforce its title. Always tailor your narrative to your audience's needs, framing the story around their goals, challenges, and motivations. In the end, your viewers should feel like the protagonists in your story, with your data acting as the guide that empowers them to act. By focusing on your narrative's structure and relevance, you can shape your data into a compelling story that effectively engages and informs your audience.